there, ladies and gentlemen, friends and rivals. My name is Jared, and with me are my esteemed co-hosts, Julia, Ian, and Anna.
Hello.
We will be your hosts for the podcast. Here at the Game Table Podcast, we take a look at various board, card, and other tabletop games. We give an overview, provide a little insight on how to play, and share our thoughts, all in an attempt to give you an idea of how well it would fit for you and your table. Today, we will once again be looking at Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West.
Yes, this is round two. Round two.
Technically round three.
Round three. Yeah, so this episode we will not be doing a full review of any kind. Well, it is a review,
Actually,
but
I think it is a full review.
It is a full review, but it's not in the more traditional sense as we normally do on this podcast.
That's right, know how to play.
Yes, but you can go back and listen to that episode if you'd like. But this is the full experience of this legacy game. We will be talking about spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, then stop right now.
So many spoilers are about to come your
100%
way.
should have already stopped.
Yep, stop. Don't even, just stop.
Why did you even click on this?
Why are you here? But this is your
But
opportunity
come
now.
back. Please come back once you've played.
Yes,
Then listen.
then listen to this. We'll go through all of our experience and what we liked, disliked, all the fun spoiler talks will be happening on this episode. So thanks for joining us. And so yeah, we'll progress through what we thought of this very long journey of, what is it? The long journey out west? Is that kind of what we
I feel like the title implies that we have become legends of the West.
Legends of the West.
Literal legends.
Yes, so there you go. We're now legends. We've completed it, so we're legends, right?
One of us, anyways.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well, you can be a legend for failing as well. So
It was a legendary failure.
It was a legendary. It was the most legendary of failures.
All right.
It's pretty good. I've told people sometimes what happened with your failure, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that was possible in Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, I've heard it multiple times that no one thought it was possible.
I will say it's never happened in any, like, I've played hundreds of games of Ticket to Ride. I've never seen such an epic legacy failure.
Well, we'll get into it.
We have reached new heights and scraped new bottoms in this game.
Very fitting for this podcast. All right,
right.
well, I'm going to let the intro music tail out, and then we'll start talking about it. Do you have any sort of question prepared?
No, I don't, but I was thinking one. Since we were talking about traveling, speaking of Legends of the West, how far west have you gone?
So just to clarify, the point of origin is Nashville, which is, of course, the center of the earth.
Yes,
So-
that's right. Right, yes. So I have gone to Arizona. That's as far as...
You're answering the question. Are we in?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
answer the
everyone-
question.
Are we talking? Is the intro music gone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I messed it up.
The intro
No,
music-
you're good.
the intro
Okay.
music is
This will
gone.
make the podcast, by the way.
Oh no, I'm so inexperienced. I'm sorry, everyone.
And yet esteemed.
Yeah.
All right, so Arizona.
Yes, that's Phoenix.
Arizona.
Yes, thank you.
Also for me, I have been to the Grand Canyon
Okay.
one time when I was like 7, and that is the furthest west I've ever been in America.
I mean, I've technically been, if I just keep going west, I've gone all the way to Europe via west, but I didn't go west to go.
Well, I was
that-
wondering, so we live in this ball
Yeah.
that's an Earth.
This is
So
a really bad question.
how far before we draw the
Well,
line and say you're going east instead of west?
I mean,
Well, we're
I
not
think
talking
you have
about
to
the
observe-
globe. We're talking about this map of Ticket to Ride.
I would say more of the United States as my thought, but if you've
Okay.
been all the way to Japan, I guess, then
well,
What about
I'm
Australia?
thinking about for Anna.
Australia would be west for me.
I did fly to Australia via Los Angeles, so
that is
it was
west.
definitely west.
I would think if you're going west, I'm counting it.
Okay. And we've decided that Nashville is the center of the earth. So
100%.
I
Yes.
have been to Kauai, Hawaii. So
Okay.
that's as far west as I've gone.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
so you in both of these, you flew out of California, and did you fly to
Yeah, we flew from Nashville to LA and then from
Okay.
LA to Hawaii.
Nice.
Arizona is feeling so puny. all
Yeah,
of
I
a
know.
sudden.
Yeah,
Dang, sorry to
One
flex on
day.
you guys.
one
It's
day
alright.
we'll get to California.
Can't all be wealthy.
I'll have to
like
open
you
that
guys.
box in my life at some point.
There you go.
Yeah,
I hear the earthquakes are dangerous in California, though. So,
but there's a gold rush.
mm.
I think it's over.
No.
It's just very expensive to
Take
live there
the-
now.
You just have to own gold before you move there. Now.
Right, yeah.
You bring your gold with you.
And then you spend it quickly. All right.
Well, there's your question, Jared.
Thank you, Ian. Riveting, as always. Well, I just want to get this out of the way on the front end. So Ian won our campaign.
I did.
I feel like, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, at no point in the campaign did I feel like Ian was not going to win the campaign, except for maybe after the first 2 games when Julia just whooped us.
I really
Yeah.
faked y'all out.
That-
I was sure that Julia was hustling. I was sure of it. I was like, man, they've played me like a fiddle.
No, it was
yeah.
Beginner's luck. Beginner's luck.
You're pretty good at the small box ticket to rides,
Mm-hmm.
which is very much.
It's a little patronizing, but okay.
No. I'm just saying, like, when we play, you usually beat up on me in those games.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into this further into the episode, but there are a lot of extra elements in this game that I'm good once I've mastered something, like once I've really gotten in a rhythm, but I am not good at adjusting my strategy on the fly. And so when new elements were introduced, it threw me for a loop. And then you'd go to the next game and I hadn't adjusted to the last thing, and then there's another new thing. So like I think I am good at basic Ticket to Ride, but I'm not. I have kind of my strategy, and it was really hard to adjust to the like crazy add-ons and stuff.
I
Yeah.
can definitely resonate with that. I felt like we played, of the 12 games that we played, I feel like we played at least 10 different games over the
Mhm.
course of that time.
Out of the
Just
12.
because,
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah,
there
but
were
like
like
10
1 and
different
2 had a very similar vibe to them of what was going on.
Yeah.
And 12, I kind of feel like we settled in to here's the gambit.
12 and 11, I think, are basically the same, right?
Yes, they were.
It didn't add anything different.
No, because you already had the last map.
It added
open.
Yeah.
like some sort of a bonus for your time zone. Like you could fill in a couple extra
Yeah.
ones. Oh, and it added you could fill in a couple extra routes at the start to make the game not drag on
That's
quite
right,
as long,
yeah,
which was
you
a good
could-
balancing
yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. And then, yeah, almost felt like the first 2 games were exactly the same, and honestly, the last 2 games were exactly the same.
Yeah, but everything in between felt
Yeah,
very different from game
because
to
you're
game.
opening a new map, a new board, a new section of the United States, and so it's just constantly like adding a whole development change of like, oh, my strategy was this. Well, now I have to completely play the game how it wants me to play now. So, which is something to, I don't know. I haven't decided how I feel about that part, I guess, but.
Well, let's talk about things that you do know how you feel about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some favorite moments from this campaign.
Oh boy.
So, whoever would like to jump in first.
Well, I'll go. I mean, I won, so that's a big moment. But
Yeehaw.
Okay.
No, there was. I don't remember what part of the country we just opened, but it was maybe like the fourth. It was not the fourth game. It was the last game. So probably like maybe 8 games in, halfway through, I got one of the engineer cards, the employee cards that allowed me to play basically with the white and my own card. So, and I would get the $4 for each. And so basically every time I claimed a route, period, I was getting $4. And so I didn't even like complete that many tickets, but I had like almost 100 in coins. And like I won by a large amount that one game because I just like I just committed to just getting the most amount of money possible. And so that was a cool moment where it's like my plan worked. Like my strategy going into the round all worked together. And so like as your company, really the change when you get $2 to $4, like it felt like a big significant change to me. You started getting the $4 for every time you played on your own color. Like, I don't know. It just felt like, man, I'm really reeling in the money now. Especially when you because that's how I played almost every game. I focused in almost every game. I'm like, I'm going to try and get every green route possible that I can get because it's just free money. And so, and then there was other abilities where it would do this and this if you played on your own, depending on whatever round it was or whatever. But that was a cool moment where it's like, and that happened kind of multiple games though, where my strategy going into it with my own color or whatever just all of a sudden worked. I was like, this is great. This is fun.
That's awesome.
I think a lot of us discovered the combo as well when you get further out west, where you can, if you claim a route for the first time, you can use whatever color you claimed it with and put down the stickers. Several of us jumped on that strategy of being able to claim a route for the first time and make it your own color.
Yeah.
And then you get to claim the route and you get to claim money for it at the same time. And so I think that was a good strategy. We definitely were pretty close to running out of all of our color stickers by
Yeah.
the end. We had tons of red and
Red.
white left, which are
Red.
the ones that nobody was using, but all the rest of us, I think, which ones ran out? Blue ran out entirely.
Mine was always low because I usually try to get them quick,
Yeah. So like,
but I didn't.
but
run
all
out-
of
I
them
don't
were
think I ran
within
out.
like 5 stickers
Yeah.
of being completely gone by the end of the game. So we claimed most of those new routes, I'd say.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of red, and so we play with 4 people, obviously. So the red color we didn't use, and so, yeah, it got abandoned
Very quickly.
Yep.
And there's still that's what's weird to me is there is that decision because red, there's not. I mean, there's red cards in the deck, and you're drawing them, but we didn't put red routes down unless we had to. Let's like there's a really long route, and we already had 5 cards of red. Like then we would do it, but it's never like I intentionally ever put red down on purpose because I don't want it to be red. I want it to be my color.
See, that maybe was where I went wrong because I was not ever trying to put down black intentionally. I put it
Mhm.
down based on what I had in my hand.
Yeah,
And I think that I could have got a lot more money if I had been trying
Yeah, I
to
mean-
lay the ground for myself. But I was just trying to complete my tickets.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know if that was a better decision or not, but
Well, clearly because you won.
well,
so.
but that's not it. Yeah, but
But at some point, though, like, there's only so for example, I was blue. There's only so many blue cards to go around.
right.
So even if I have the option of more blues, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get to continually keep cashing in on that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I
don't know
that.
how the
I did
math.
that too, though. I was every yellow card that came up, I was trying to get every blank route I was trying to make be yellow if I could,
Yeah.
because I felt like it benefited me in the long run to do that.
Sure. Julia, what about you? Anything particular that stands out?
Well, I loved that I won the first 2 games.
Nice.
That definitely stands out. I loved whenever we got to open a new area of the country up. I always felt like that was really fun to get bigger and bigger tickets and complete those big point maker tickets. That was fun for me.
They kept getting longer and longer as the game went on.
I don't know. There's something really satisfying about like making a connection between like Seattle and Florida, and you're just like, I don't know, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I find that fun, but I also didn't win, so I don't know if it's actually very lucrative.
It's all
but-
about the journey along the way, right? I don't know. I
Yeah.
think for me, doing the little stuff was the most fun. So, like, taking over a big city and making it my own and feeling like I'm building this empire was a lot of fun over the course of the campaign. I liked some of the side stuff. Like, I really enjoyed the circus and making that work with my strategy, and we did a lot of the shares. I feel like both of those went really quick. Like, I don't think they lasted more than 1 game.
The shares lasted 2 games, and the circus lasted 1, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
burned
really wish
through.
the circus had lasted longer because
Yeah.
I did
I
not
feel
do
like
the
it was
right
so
thing with
fast.
that.
Yeah.
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 Um,
So speaking, so I'll kind of piggyback off that question. So, what was your favorite, like actual mechanic, or more specifically, what like box did we open that you enjoyed the most, or what was in it?
Well, so I'll go for that one because my favorite was the circus.
Okay.
I thought that one was very fun. It felt like there were some strategies that got introduced that I was kind of trying to figure out as we went through. In the circus, I was like, oh, I see very easily how this can work into my strategy, because I typically will do a strategy where I'll collect most of the cards I need for my routes to make sure I've got it. And then I won't play them all until I've got them all, unless somebody else is kind of competing with me for a route.
Yeah.
So that worked very well for my strategy, because I could just be holding all these different color cards that would go to the different parts of my route, and whatever circus ticket was showing, I could just play whatever that route was and get that circus ticket. And then next turn around, whatever was showing, I could play that route and get that circus ticket. And so I think Jared and I did the best with the circus train. And it did go very quickly because I think it was fairly an easy strategy to grasp, and a lot of people jumped on that. And I know we all said at the end, oh man, that went by so quickly. I wish that we could have had more time with the circus. And I agree because it was my favorite part. But I also really appreciated that there were some strategies that ended, because I know by the end of the game, we were all looking at the board kind of just, I don't even know what to make of this, because there were so many side quests and side strategies that did continue to all the way to the end of the game. So it was kind of nice that every single territory didn't have a quest that continued to the end of the game, because that would have made it be a lot more overwhelming.
Right. There'd be like
Yeah.
so much at the end. Yeah.
I liked watching you guys do the treasure maps. I was the only one who didn't actually participate in the treasure maps, but I enjoyed watching you guys do it, and the suspense of like revealing, and it's like, oh, is it going to be a skull? I don't know.
Yep.
I thought that was fun. I enjoyed like I said, like I didn't strategy wise, I had a weak game, but I really enjoyed just experiencing all the different little niches and new things. Like I really liked the bridges with the aftershock
Yep.
effect at the very
Oh,
end.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, mostly because I got to watch Ian kind of get shafted a little bit.
It was
Finally.
so satisfying.
Finally.
It just
I
is,
still
like
figured out
it
a
wasn't
way.
even that big of a deal. Like you could just pay to have them rebuilt, but it is just kind of funny for it to be like, oh, and all the routes out of San Francisco are broken down.
Yeah,
And
they
Ian
were
has
just-
like 3 routes out of San Francisco.
That-
Yeah.
Just laying
What's
on the
funny is
board.
that is my favorite. California was, I think, one of my favorites to open though, just because it was like, I think that was one of the last ones we opened, and it's like, okay, now we have the whole board set up, and then you open it, and it's not just like, you know, L.A., San Francisco. It's got, you know, it's more zoomed in, and it has a couple more other cities in there, and then yes, the bridges thing. Everybody's like, oh no, I'm gonna stay away from the bridges, and like turn 1 when we after
I was so
California-
mad at you guys for doing this.
Turn 1, I built one because in the last 2 games it gives you routes for free that you could build before the game technically starts. So I put one there, and then on my first turn I also did it again, and I built another one. And so I committed to the bridges, and then like on turn 4 the bridges collapsed, and so then I was screwed. I mean, I had to find ways to get you have to basically get a locomotive and have it at the end of the game to rebuild it. Or I also had a ticket card that I used to repair one. So I had an ability that I had saved up for, like, I think I might have got that. What were those cards called?
The postcards.
The postcards. I had a postcard that helped me rebuild bridges probably like by game 6. And I'm like, what is a bridge? Like
That I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's annoying.
I had that one, and then I think there was another one with the treasure map that I had like for like almost 6 or 7 games. I'm like, I'm just sitting on this card. I have no idea what a bridge is, but this sounds like it's useful later on. So that was a fun one to do because I finally got to be able to use it, and it repaired a bridge for me, which saved me because like I think I had 4 routes that were broken, and so that 4 locomotives is hard to get at the end of the game, like saving them. So yeah, that was one of my favorites because it just kind of completed it all. Brought it all to
Which that's another good incentive for winning individual games. So I did not win very many individual games. I'm trying to think. I think I only maybe won 1 or 2 individual games because I was focusing a lot more on more of like the side quests. And I ended up doing very well overall. But every single time it would come to picking the new part of the map, Ian would get to pick the new part of the map. And I, very first game, had drawn something that gave me a benefit for looking for treasure maps in Sierra Madre.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to do Sierra Madre, and he just wouldn't do it. My
Yeah,
goodness. He went all the way across, and then he was like, let's do Florida. And I'm just like, what in the world's going on? So finally I won 1 game,
Yeah, I did.
and I expanded into Sierra Madre. But that's an
That's funny.
incentive, is you can, when
it's
you
funny.
have these postcards that are foretelling these future events,
Yeah.
you can control that if you win the game and get to pick the next territory.
Right. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't. I don't know if it was intentional or not that we didn't end up opening that one, but
What do you mean you don't know? You don't know
well,
if
I
you
mean,
made-
I wanted to get to California. Basically, that's what my goal was. But
He
open
was
it up.
trying really hard. I
I-
could see like when we talked you into doing Florida,
Yeah,
you were like a little dead inside. You're like, this isn't really what I don't want to go south. I want to go west.
I want to go west.
He wanted to completely forget Florida.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just Oh well.
That
Screw
would have been a
Florida.
mess, though.
Yeah.
I feel like if we waited on Florida.
If
and
you had to
did
do
it-
circus at the very end along
Oh
with
my
everything
God.
else.
Oh
can you
my
imagine?
goodness gracious! Yeah, the circus was Florida, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a good one. I'm glad we didn't open that one first though, because it kind of got us. I think that
We
was
did
like
a little
maybe
bit west,
game
and then
4 or
that's right.
5
Yep.
maybe that we opened Florida finally.
I agree.
So yeah, no, that was a good choice. Yeah, the circus is wild, but
Although it would have been kind of interesting thinking about how things could have worked different if we had opened Florida at the same time as we opened the one that had the shares, or like kind of back to back or something, because
Right.
both of those based on what the color of the routes you played and how many routes you played.
yeah.
So I'm wondering about the combos that you could have built if somebody ended up doing it that way. Which one was the shares? Do you remember?
I don't remember offhand.
Okay.
It's been a week or so since we finished up, but
That
That
was like the
a while
Midwest
ago.
kind of, I think.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I
Yeah.
don't remember. I don't even know if the shares were for a specific map. I think it was.
Oh, it might have been
I
just
think
a
it was
month.
just part of the game. I think by
Mhm.
like game 8 or 9, maybe.
There you go, yeah.
So yeah, you
Yeah.
could have got a.
You could have gotten
doubled
shares
up.
in
Yeah,
Florida in the
you could
same
have doubled
time.
up. Yeah.
I'm just seeing some fun combos we didn't get to experience if we
Yeah.
had both
Yep.
those at the same time.
That's why you have to buy it again and play it again.
That's right.
oh, a thing you could do.
Jared's like, no, I'm not doing it.
Oh, okay.
I'd be down. I'm gonna find a group of people and play without Jared. I loved this
That's
game
totally
so much.
fine.
I've been telling
Spoilers.
everybody about it.
That's good. That's
Um,
good. I,
So if anybody on our Discord wants to hop into my Ticket to Ride game
There you
without
go.
Jared,
Yeah.
Dang.
ooh,
I would love that. Not without Jared specifically. Just I would
Sure,
love
sure,
to play
sure,
Ticket
sure.
to Ride again.
yep.
what since we talked about what we because I already know what it might be. What's like your least favorite thing that you open? Because that robber is annoying, but what does everybody else think about like
Oh,
the
that's
worst
interesting.
thing?
I had no issue with the robber, actually.
We kind of stayed away from building white routes, just like we stayed away from building red routes. And so, I mean, I'd say I got cursed by the ghost train more than
The Ghost
robbed
Train
by
was
the robber.
the most frustrating for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
See, that's interesting because I was going to jump in and say I actually, from a game standpoint, I actually kind of like the Ghost Train because it sits in that space on the map where you're like, are you going to risk it and go through there, or are you going to spend the time to go around?
Yeah.
And I liked how Anna, you and Julia specifically, consistently were like, nope, we're just going to dive right through
Just
here.
go through it. We're gonna
Just
risk
gonna
it.
deal. And I think we saw what happened because of that.
It's
But
true. The ghost train cost me the completion of a whole ticket the
Yeah.
last game.
the
of
Ghost
the-
Train cost me a whole game. So
Ah, well.
But it's not his least
Weird.
It
favorite thing.
definitely is a make or break, but it is a cool element. Like I don't think that it I think it served its purpose. Like I don't think it was faulty
Absolutely.
by any means. It just was the most frustrating
I get that.
when you're trying to execute something and it's like, oh well, guess what? Now you have to do it with your hand tied behind your back, and it's like
Yeah, I think the Ghost Train, because it lasted like for the rest of the game. But I was looking at the robber. The robber, it only lasted like maybe a couple games. But that was annoying because I was the one trying to collect all the money, and so you would place the robber on a city, and like everybody that was going outside that city would have to pay $1. And I'm like, it just kept happening because I'm like in the middle of the board, so everybody's putting in the middle of the board.
See, to me, it was the same as Mama O'Connell. It's just like $1 here, $1 there. People are just
Yeah,
paying
see, I never had
dollars.
to pay Mama
See, that's
O'Connell.
interesting because I was gonna say Mama O'Connell is probably my least liked part of this game.
Oh.
And I think-
she's supposed
and
to be
this
the
is-
villain.
Well,
Yeah.
this is gonna get to something I'm gonna talk about later, but my tickets consistently crossed path with where she was,
Ooh.
and so I was like, if she was randomly just hitting the board, I would like that better than just she's here. And because she's here, I'm paying her dollar upon dollar all the time because I keep getting these cards.
Because she's Omaha, I think, is the main one.
Omaha!
Well, I think
But
we
it's right there
we
in that
picked
north
where she was
Midwest.
going to be.
That's
we took
right.
the little stickers down where she was going to be.
Mm,
I think the original.
the original
one.
is on the board, and then she expands.
Yeah, and then we picked
Oh.
ones for her to expand into.
That's right. But
Gotcha.
it had to be branching out from where she started.
Okay.
So
okay.
you are essentially in that spot.
But if there really were a crime lord, don't you there would be parts of the country oh, this is so and
100%.
so's territory. You don't want to if you don't want to deal with them, avoid this area.
And Jared's like, I'm gonna keep going there.
Thematically, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
Mechanically, I'm frustrated as all get
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, you just told Julie and I to go around the ghost train.
Right,
you could have gone
You're right,
around
it's
Mama
the
O'Connell.
same.
It's a
If
double
anything,
standard.
I'm validating what Julia said earlier.
It's a double standard.
It's not a double standard. It just was frustrating.
We all have different things that make us tick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wish there had been more tickets. We ran out of tickets
Yes.
every single game.
Can you guys imagine playing this with 5 people?
No,
Oh.
Dude.
I can't. I
Like,
know.
Literally, it wasn't even one of my good games, so I don't even know if this is a good piece of strategy. But like there was one game that I was drawing tickets so prematurely because I knew that they were all going to be gone, and so I just kept drawing them even when I was nowhere close to being ready, and I still felt rushed.
You have to like draw them intentionally before you think you need to, or
Right.
before you're done.
I'm so
because-
used to finishing my tickets,
Yeah.
and then once I'm done with all the tickets in my hand, I then draw new tickets. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying not to jump the gun here on my thoughts, but it is interesting because it kind of breaks. I think you alluded to this earlier, Julia. It kind of breaks your understanding of how to play Ticket to Ride.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the earlier games, you kind of have to grab tickets early because otherwise they're gone.
Yeah.
And
That
Same-
never
yeah.
happens in another game. Like,
Has that happened to anybody when they've been playing Ticket to Ride? Where you've run
where
out
you
of tickets?
run out of tickets?
Yeah. 'Cause
Maybe
that has never happened. to
I
me.
usually play them.
That's excellent
I
audio.
forgot we were recording a podcast. I'm just talking.
Anyway,
I've never run out of tickets before.
no, because we usually so we're playing US or Europe. Like there's the Mega Edition with all the cards, and I usually run that.
Mega edition.
Yeah.
Mega.
So
The
I
only
don't-
time we've gotten close, we were playing a Asia team game, and somehow we all kind of fell into our routes the way we wanted to.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the game, everybody just kept scooping up cards, and it kept going for a while. But we got down to like 3. And like that's a really wacky, like
Yeah.
very specific situation
Yeah.
that
yeah.
wouldn't happen in most Ticket to Ride games.
maybe yeah. It's maybe on the app it happened once
Well, also
when I was playing on the app, but that was
like,
not in real life.
the first parts of the game, the first like several games, the tickets are so much smaller. You know, because you
Yeah.
only have a limited amount
Right.
of space to create routes. So you don't have these big cross-country routes that are going to take you longer to complete. You have shorter routes that you can go through quicker. And so I feel like that contributed to the scarcity of the tickets because going from Pittsburgh to Nashville just isn't that far. And so you can just get that done and then you need more.
And then the ticket's gone.
And then the
Because
ticket's
you've
gone.
clipped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then tickets don't stay around. I mean, they get punched, some of them twice, but the ones as many of them that are only once. So, yeah, they're just not sticking around. So it's like a whole other game, and then it's almost like so you open a box, and you play through those tickets, and then there's like maybe like 10 of them that are hung around for the next game. Like it feels like so many are thrown away.
It did feel like we got through a lot of them. Yes.
And because we're completing almost the entire deck of new tickets. We opened up a new deck, and really, I mean, how many? There's no tickets that are staying for every single game. Like once you're clipped it twice, that card's out. So it's always you're just playing with like how many cards are they adding per pack? What, like 20, 25? So that's all you're maybe playing with 30 tickets total, like per game, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on what you're doing. But
Right. And maybe we all just play in a strategy where we don't get out of the game, and maybe that was supposed to be an expectation, was that a player or two would be like, I'm just going to rush and get out of here. But you can't even really do that as well in this game, I feel like, because unlike normal Ticket to Ride, you're not scoring points for those routes.
right.
So if you're not pulling tickets, you're just kind of slapping stuff down for
The
kicks.
points you're getting is money, and it, like, I mean, I guess so. Hypothetically, if you get $16 when you have no trains left,
That's true. But
but if everybody else has 5, 10, it looks like you're only getting maybe 10 to 12 more dollars than them. Like, I feel like it's worth.
more,
That's way more.
you're-
Might
you're-
as well draw tickets.
that's right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's just very interesting.
And I don't know like what you're saying that if somebody could just rush into the game, because at most you're only getting 2 cards per turn, which means at most then you could only lay down that many. I don't know. I think there's a balancing aspect in that, because I was trying to think like, man, are we just completing way more tickets than other people would have been completing or something? And it's like, no, not
yeah, I
really,
don't think so.
because you have a certain number of trains and you've got to play till those trains are done, which is doing these tickets. So I feel like this is
and you
gonna
get
be
more
a
trains
standard.
in this game than you do like a regular game
Yeah.
at the end.
But it,
Yeah,
it
at the end of the
definitely
game you do.
establishes a front runner, a mid pack, a caboose, if you will, because it's like if you can't get to the tickets first, like you're kind of just out of luck.
Yeah.
And so I think it more easily divides front runners from the rest. So maybe that's what they were thinking, was that it would like give you more of an edge if you're able to collect more tickets than everyone else, like help you get ahead more.
Yeah.
If it's like a competitive thing, I don't know.
But yeah, because in regular Ticket to Ride, I mean, not all of them have a longest route. But for
Right.
example, if you can't get as many tickets to go together, you can connect your 2 routes
Mhm.
and then go for longest route, which gives you some extra points. Or I remember, some games, where you get points for those very long routes. You can get like 15 points for
Yep.
a long route.
Yep.
Well, man, that's just as good as drawing a ticket if I've only got a few
Yeah.
rounds left, or they're running low on tickets. I'm just going to complete some long routes and get extra points. There was not another way to get extra points within the scope of the game. Now, there were these little kind of side quest things that you could focus on, but you couldn't only focus on them. And if you ran out of tickets, there was nothing to do.
Right. And so I felt like I felt like to me, and Jared will have to answer for that, but I felt like to me that Anna and Julia were the ones drawing the tickets before me and Jared.
Well, and I feel like part of maybe what worked for your strategy was that you were doing tickets, but you were also really utilizing the extra ways there were to make money. Like
Yeah.
what were you saying? Like,
Well, I really focused in on like my color, or I
Mhm.
took the one that with the white train a couple times, and then I feel like there was another one where I got some money based off the type of route or something. Oh, there was another one where basically you got double money for playing on your own color again. Anyway, there was a lot of different employees that I just focused in on the money, and so yeah. But I just felt like y'all were definitely the ones drawing them quickly. But I don't like. Do you feel like that helped you at all? Because I mean, there were many games. I won a lot of the middle games, and then in the end, I like won 1 or 2. I didn't win a bunch on the end. But in those middle stretch, I think I won a couple games in a row, and I was really
And by
feeling
a couple, I think you won like 6.
6 in a
It was
row.
like
No, I don't
6
think it was.
No, it was a lot
Okay.
in a row.
Well, I mean, if it was, I just know, that middle ground is where I was pulling the right cards. I was getting a lot of the money, like all that stuff was working well. But even in those games, though, I didn't draw the tickets first. I would still complete a lot of tickets. I was just wondering, like, how you felt about it, because I know, Jared, me and you, I don't think we felt like we were ever drawing tickets first.
No.
Yeah. But I
Well,
was wondering what.
I feel like that's just the way I know how to play Ticket to Ride, is you just get as many tickets done as you can.
Yeah.
And I don't think ultimately that was super successful for me, because that was what I was really focused on.
Mm.
And I also just am a person with limited brain capacity. Like, I just can't carry the same things that you can. And so I'm focusing on finishing tickets more than, like, I didn't do the treasure maps. I didn't do any of the extra stuff, because I was just like, I'm just trying to finish what's in my hand. And I don't feel like that served me super well in the end. Like, I think that they want you to kind of risk it for the biscuit and
Yes.
do the extra stuff towards the end.
Yeah. And I would say that what you're remembering about me being the one that will redraw tickets early was more my end game strategy. I was all over the place when it came to tickets. So at the start of the game, I was the one that was going to go draw my next set of tickets, and the pile would be completely empty. And so then at the end of those games, I was like, oh man, I need to somehow rework my strategy to where I can draw tickets sooner, this and that. For a few games in a row, I got the employee that let you discard up to 2 incomplete tickets.
Yep.
And so that gave me more confidence to start drawing more tickets and see how they work together. And I'd say by the end of the game, I had a pretty good balance of getting a lot of tickets before they ran out, but I completed every single one of them.
Yeah.
I didn't have a game where there was a big ticket that I didn't complete at the end,
Mm.
except for the one that the ghost train caused me to not complete.
The
And
ghost train.
luckily that one wasn't like connected to other stuff. Really, it was
claims
fine.
another.
It was fine. It was fine. So in answer to your question, it was a good strategy for me, but it took me a while to figure it out.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Jared, do you have any thoughts on the drawing tickets earlier and not? Did it affect your game whatsoever?
I don't think I ever figured out the right strategy for how to do that.
Mm.
I think over the course of 12 games, like you said, I was never the first person to get into the ticket pile, and I knew I was falling behind because of it. I always felt like I got to the end of each game, and I was like, okay, not each game, but several games I would be like, okay, I participated in the mini game really well. I got through my tickets. I never felt like, except for the one game that I just missed on my tickets. But I always felt like, man, they're just drawing tickets consistently. And no matter what I've done and feel like I've played a really good game, I was like, man, there's so much more points they're claiming on tickets. So I could never find the right rhythm for when, okay, this is now the time to start gathering more.
Mhm.
And so I think it definitely hurt. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when it came to starting my routes, I think I always started on the East Coast with those big cities. That's one of my favorite, like that's in every game, even from the beginning. But the big city thing where basically when you play into a big city, you get to draw a card off the top of the deck. That was my favorite.
That was a good mechanic.
That is my favorite mechanic in this game. I utilize that every single game because I would intentionally select cards, if possible, that connected to the East Coast, the actual coast, so that I could connect to the big cities. And I would get like my important route done first over on the west side of the map, but immediately go over to the east side and play those. So I'm just cycling cards quickly. That was a fun little every game. I'm like, okay, how can I fit this in?
Yeah.
Like I really.
It was helpful that there was, so like green and black,
Mm.
there was a lot of those over on the East Coast. There was like no yellow over on the East Coast. So I liked the mechanic for letting me draw a card, which
Mm.
then contributed to other routes.
That's interesting. So there wasn't as many of your
There
color?
weren't as many yellows that were connecting to big cities. All those like 3 routes
Yeah.
that would go down the East Coast, none of them were yellow.
That's wild. I didn't.
Yeah,
think about
it wasn't on the coast on the east, but down south, I feel like you had more yellow than.
Yeah, coming in and out of like Nashville and stuff like that, there were
that. Huh.
more.
I mean,
yellow.
that's it. Because I was green. I know there was a lot of green on the
Yep.
very northeast. And so I was like, I got to get these because it's $2 or $4 depending on when you're playing, and then you get the card.
And you get the card.
I mean,
No, I agree. You and I were always over
Yeah.
there, and I was like,
I never look. I guess I never thought there was somebody else's color wasn't there.
I always felt like just hopelessly confused because like Ian's turn would be like right before mine. And he's like, all right, and I get $4 and I get to draw a card and I'm moving 2 spaces
And I played a trade.
Oh, and I have this special thing that gives me actually $20 now, so I'm just gonna take that. Like I just felt like
he would pull that out of his butt.
I felt like
a
he was
lot.
doing like 20 things per turn and just raking in the cash. And it was like, I guess I'll draw. Like I just felt like I had no, like Ian's just in there like slicing away.
There was some games of Ticket to Ride in this campaign that were the best Ticket to Ride games I've ever played in my life. I ain't gonna lie.
Nice.
I'm really
I
happy
ain't gonna
for you,
lie.
dude.
I was clutch in the.
You played really well. I was really. I mean, we gave you a lot of crap for it because it was deserved.
If you're gonna be a winner,
Because-
you're gonna take a lot of crap.
No,
That's
no,
just part of it.
Well, truthfully, Julia, like, and I think this is the first time we talked about this on the podcast since it's happened. But I loved watching Ian play that way. I love it when Ian gets in the zone and it's like watching an artist like paint something, and you just see the joy on his face. But we couldn't help but like give him crap because not a month earlier he'd come to me and like, Jared, I just don't think I'm good at board games.
That's right.
And I wanted to smack you for it.
He's
Like,
so funny, and like the most humble he ever is in like an annoying way. Is like when he's winning. Like when he
Oh,
is
yeah.
losing, he's the biggest butthole because he's like, I should have won that game. What?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And it's like, okay, dude. And then like this drives me crazy. This shows what a competitive person I am actually on the inside. Is like when I'm losing, we'll be driving away from y'all's house, and I'm just like steaming in the passenger seat, and he's like, you did really good. And I'm just like, you don't touch me. Because like he'll have won, but he won't say a thing.
Yes.
He'll just be like, no, that was really good.
When I
You did
mopped
a
the
good
floor 4
job."
games in a row.
Exactly.
It was a long
Exactly.
ride
And then
home.
he's so nice to me, and I just can't stand it.
it is infuriating sometimes.
You should listen to our last podcast about how to not hate each other at the end of a game
Yeah.
night after
There you
you
go.
had
That's
a
really
date
Not-
night.
I would not encourage
Oh
Ticket
my
to Ride
gosh.
Legacy for date nights.
Side note, we played Lorcana about a month or 2 ago.
Heyo.
Listeners, I am embarrassed to admit this. I cried.
Oh.
I lost so badly.
Oh,
And I
no.
literally got up from the table. We didn't even finish the game. I said, I don't want to play anymore.
She
And
left.
Ian, I was losing so bad. Ian was like, okay. Normally he would be like, no, like we need to finish. Like treats me like a child in a good way. I'm like, we started the game. We're going to finish it. I was like, I'm done. I am losing so terribly. There was no recovering. And he was like, okay. And I literally laid in our bed and I cried. I was
Oh,
so
no.
frustrated.
I was getting the pulls.
man.
Yeah, I did not get this way with this game. He won.
No, we did not end the game prematurely at any point.
We
Even
almost
in the
did
mid-
though.
yeah.
There was
I mean, we
almost a lay
we
in bed
didn't
and cry
play another
moment.
game after Jared had his. But you didn't as much hate everybody else as much as you hated yourself after that. So
That's
Yeah.
true.
Do you want to give the listeners
is-
a
I mean, it's
Well,
different
okay,
from, like-
so
We have to stop teasing this.
well, I was. Oh,
no,
Epic.
it's coming.
Yeah.
So here's what I was kind of thinking for. So normally we do grading and final thoughts to wrap up our episodes. What I would like to do is let each person. We're gonna do kind of two things. One, I want you to tell me if we're all seasoned Ticket to Ride players.
Mhm.
Do you feel like Ticket to Ride fits well as a legacy game? And then the second half of that question, and this is really more of the final thoughts, talk about kind of your personal experience and your perspective as a player for how it felt for you over the course of the game, and kind of segue that into your thoughts and kind of grade it. And we'll just kind of go around the table doing that. So,
Okay.
Ian, as the winner, why don't you
Go ahead.
go ahead and take the first stab?
I have not played a ton of legacy games. I think it works. It's not. No, I think it works. And the reason I think it works is that it's adding, like any other legacy game, you get to open the stuff. There's cool things that won't be in another game, another version of Ticket to Ride. It does bring in concepts from other Ticket to Rides, which maybe it's because Ticket to Ride is just so expansive now that it's like, oh, well, this is from this game and this is from this game. And so when we're opening stuff in this box, it just felt like, okay, well, I've seen this before, like in a way, like stocks have been done before.
Right.
So where like the legacy version of example Pandemic, there is a lot of different like expansions of that, but I didn't play them. And that version, you start opening stuff in the game's like not even like it's not Pandemic anymore. It's something different. This still felt like Ticket to Ride the entire time. It never felt like it changed into something different. It just added a lot more different things to it in my mind. And there was some things like the circus, the ghost train, like there are definitely stuff in here that hadn't been in a Ticket to Ride before, but it still felt like you're playing Ticket to Ride underneath it, all of it. And I never, in a legacy game, there's a desire in me that wants it to become this just weird experience that I'm not going to get in the regular version of that. So that's something that I would say to that. There's a positive and negative to that, though, because I think Ticket to Ride is more accessible, and a lot of people know Ticket to Ride, and it's a good entry-level legacy game. I think this is a lot of fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun playing. There was just something in that. It's like, this still feels like, oh, it's like Ticket to Ride, even though it never really changed into something that I thought was going to, change exponentially. It never made that massive leap for me. But there was still some really good changes from game to game. So I did like that. I think it works as a legacy. I think it fits in the legacies. And overall, I had a lot of fun playing it. I had a lot of fun opening all the different boxes and all the different, twists and turns that happen throughout each game. So yeah, there's that. Overall, though, do you want me to give you a number?
Yes.
Yeah.
Overall, I would put this at a. I think this works really well with a lot of games that we talk about, which is like that family style game. I think it works well. I think you could play this with anybody, literally anybody. And even a hardcore gamer, I think, like I consider myself more of a heavy gamer. I enjoyed this very much. And so, yeah, I would put it at like an 8. It was a very fun experience. There were some things that were missing, but overall, like just a solid, fun, like time. And we played it 12 times. It's not like, you're committing to 3 years or something crazy. Like it was a good experience, but there's definitely some things that I wanted to do that it didn't necessarily take off. So there's that.
Right on. And in second, so why don't you go next?
Sure, yeah. And it was interesting as Ian was describing what he wants out of a legacy game. I was realizing that I guess I want something a little bit different out of a legacy game.
Oh.
So that impacted how we view the game. I really like the weaving of a good story in a legacy game. And so our main experience with legacy has been we've done Pandemic, all of them, right? all the legacy
We've done
ones that
season
they
1
had.
and 2. We've got 0, but we haven't opened it
That's
yet.
true. We've got 0, but we didn't open it yet. I did appreciate that after this Ticket to Ride legacy game, Jared and I did not need quite as much marriage therapy as we needed after Pandemic season 2, which was just
A debacle.
we had completely different ideas of how the world should be run and
the
blamed each
stakes are
other
a
for
lot
the
higher.
destruction of the world in that game. In this one, it was nice that, there wasn't that same, you win together, you lose together, you're just playing a game of Ticket to Ride together. But it did have a cool story woven through it. And so
Yeah.
I liked that. And it had a cohesive story. You had the Mama O'Connell story, but you also had the history woven in, which I think I mentioned in the very first podcast. I think history is super interesting. I loved how they wove in history and fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Because, obviously there weren't really ghosts and there weren't really this, like things like that.
There's not a real ghost train.
Right. But it was history and fantasy, and you got that in full force when you got to California, and it was completely broken off from the U.S. by the earthquakes. And I was like, this isn't history. And then I was like, but that's so fun. And it did play off of what did happen. I mean, California did have earthquakes that would destroy entire cities and then burn them, and then, things like that historically when people were settling California. So I would say that it plays very well as a legacy game in terms of that you did feel like you were discovering more and more of the story as it went on, and you did get a resolution of the story at the end by catching Mama O'Connell and bringing her to justice and having basically supplanted her as the big main train empire because you've been building your own empire along the way. So I thought that was fun in a legacy game. Yeah, and it felt like Ticket to Ride the whole time, like Ian was saying, but it felt like it got bigger. And, I mean, because the map was getting bigger, but because you also had more to focus on. And I do like that in a legacy game as well, that it feels like it's more complex, it's more expansive, the stakes are higher every time, and
Yeah.
it did have that aspect of it for a legacy game as well. I would probably also rate it at an 8. I don't have like a lot of negative to say except for the little kind of picky things that, we wish that there'd been more tickets. I was kind of frustrated by the money economy because I was thinking money was going to be a little bit more of, sometimes maybe what if you don't have enough money to do that? But I don't think any of us ever felt like we didn't have enough money to do anything. So the money almost felt like extravagant to me in that you were getting a little, paying a little, but it wasn't, I don't know, the economy aspect of it didn't feel quite right to me. But other than a few little nitpicky things, I loved it. I've recommended it to many, many people and gotten excited about it. And yeah, so 8 would be my score.
Julia?
Well, I really enjoyed this game. I, like Anna, am a sucker for a good story and a good narrative. And I feel like this game really gave me that. I really felt like each time we sat down to play, we were re-entering kind of this world that we were building, and it all felt very cohesive and it just made sense. Like it followed a narrative, and you felt like what you were doing made sense as far as like westward expansion and building your business and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed that. I have not played a lot of the Ticket to Rides that Ian, I think, is referencing because all of the elements were new to me. I did not feel like I didn't recognize any of the elements because I haven't played those same games. So it all did feel very new and different to me. Each time we opened something different and incorporated new elements, it did feel like Ticket to Ride was like being plussed up, like it's just different elements added in. So I think if you're not as familiar with Ticket to Ride, like it could be a really good option, like for it to feel like a new experience if you're not as familiar with all the stocks and stuff that you were saying is in some other games. Like I didn't even know that. So it just depends on your experience. So I really enjoyed it. I felt like it does make a good legacy game because, like we've been saying, like westward expansion was a slow, gradual build. And so it makes sense, like on the back of the scorecard, like each year, it wasn't a direct succession of years. Like it's like it would skip a couple years here and there. So it felt like this long kind of gradual, here's the development of the railroad economy in America. So I feel like it makes sense as a legacy game. I feel like it makes sense that the railroad really did expand over time. And so like you're involved in that as a railroad tycoon. So I feel like it made sense. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because I
Ooh.
really enjoyed it and I think it was really fun and I would 100% do it again.
Wow.
All right, hit us up on Discord.
That's right. You were saying about the expansion. Like, how many trains do we play at the very end?
55?
Yeah, that's like so many trains.
I
Because
think
normal
that's-
ticket to ride's like 42 or something. Yeah.
40 something. Yeah.
40 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many.
All right.
Well, the loser.
The loser in so many ways in this game. So
Jared needed his own therapy after this game.
no, it was fine. I've
After just that one game, you need
That's right.
therapy.
Just that one.
Yeah.
I had some self-reflection and I came out of my depression just fine. So
Okay.
it's okay. All right, so story time first and then I'll answer the questions.
Yes.
So this was game 10 and
What
I knew I'd been doing well on the mini games, but I still felt behind.
Okay.
And I knew this was in the middle of your run where you'd had so many games in a row where you won. And I was like, I have to swing for the fences and it has to come soon. Otherwise, there's just no way that I'm going to catch him. So I got dealt tickets and they lined up pretty well. And I was like, okay, that's cool. We're going to go across the map. We can collect some points here.
Do you know what
And
we opened? What map?
I truly don't remember.
Okay.
Like, I think subconsciously I've blocked this from my brain other
Okay.
than like what happened.
I was just curious. I
I
don't
can
remember.
just give you highlights. So I think I opened with 3 tickets that went across the map, and I was like, cool, that's cool. I can work with that. And so I started on one end. I think I started on the West Coast because I wanted to get out. Oh yeah, because it was very heavy, very quick, and I was like, okay, I've got to go ahead and get those and get out of the way. And so we got to a point. There were several events that game that specifically hit me where I got basically it came to a crawl. Okay.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I can work around it. I went ahead and drew more tickets. I was trying to learn that balance of getting ahead on when to draw the tickets. And all of a sudden I've got tickets that are going north and south on the west side and on the east side.
Oh no.
And I'm like, cool, no big deal. We'll go ahead and finish those. And all of it hinged on me connecting both sides in the middle in that ghost train area, like we've talked about.
The ghost train.
The stupid ghost train. So I could feel we're getting close to the end. I've got probably 10 or 11 tickets in my hand. And I'm like, man, none of these are completed. I need them all to come to the middle of the board. And I was mathing it out. I was like, okay, if I can just get to the end, if I can just get to this point, I've got it. And I knew it was going to come down to the last turn. And then right before the last turn, I got hit with a curse. And it shut me down. I was like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do.
Ghost
So
train.
What was the curse again?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it forced me to not be able to play a card that I needed to be able to play.
Wasn't it like you couldn't play in that territory or something?
It was something like
Until
that.
you
Yes,
spent
it
so
was
many-
that.
Yeah.
I couldn't play in the territory that I had to be in to connect everything.
You had to waste a turn
To
and
get
spend
rid of it.
cards to get rid of it, and
But
then
it was,
come back a
it was
different
too
turn
late.
and do it.
Yeah, it was too late.
And this is we're like 2-3 turns away from the end of the game.
Not even. I feel like we were there. Like, and then, but I had to burn cards that I needed to be able to finish.
Oof.
So I ended that Ticket to Ride game with a score of -56.
Oof.
Yes, I did that.
-56.
Did we ever look up if you could get a negative score in Ticket to Ride?
You 100% can.
Yes.
You can?
Since
Okay.
tickets can give you a minus score.
There you go.
I mean, you get negative points with
Never
the
been
cards.
seen before.
I'm happy to have provided that entertainment for all
What's
of you.
yes? So one, you've never had to look it up before because it's never happened before. So, but
I'm
yes,
sure I've set some kind of Ticket to Ride record.
But
That's
so-
right.
I mean, yeah, especially in this game. I don't know. Let us know what your scores were in Legacy.
It was the ultimate swing for the fence move, and it reflected in the final scoring that if that had worked out, it would have been very close
Yeah.
at the end.
I
But-
just don't think that there's any way that could have even happened in a normal game of Ticket to Ride. Like,
No,
it-
it was everything fell the way that it did for a like it just there was
Yeah.
nothing I could do. At
Yeah.
some point, you're just like, all right, this is just how the cards are falling.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because like as I've reflected on this game since then, I actually don't measure this game based on game 10 because game 10 was just Game 10 was just the final like nail in the coffin of how I felt.
He's gonna
about
say
this
he's
game.
not biased because of getting negative 50 cents. That's what you're
That's
saying.
right.
Completely unbiased.
No, I'm still biased. I'm just saying it's not.
Still
I am
biased.
not coming at this from a perspective of one game with a negative 56 score. Like that happened. That's fine. Obviously, like it's great entertainment value for all of you guys and everyone you've told. So
That's right.
there you go.
The stories live on.
So I'll get to that in a second. But first, is this a good legacy game? I agree. It has a very good story. It does that very well. I was very intrigued with how they were going to make Ticket to Ride a legacy game when they first teased it. Obviously, the Gold Rush was a great idea. Adding in this kind of NPC crime lord really helped. So overall, the story was great. One thing I will give it a knock for, I did not like how many postcards we still had in the box that we never saw. Like I was like, there's this whole part of the game that we never encountered.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we could have done differently to encounter it. I mean, other than different cards being completed a different way. So that was
But we
disappointing.
we retired so many tickets, but every ticket has like a choice of
Yes,
several postcards, and then you can only choose one.
You can only choose one.
So you're not even looking at 2/3 of the postcards, for example.
And there were multiple games where like I had 3 of the ones with postcards, and then
And you
one
can
of
only
you
pick
guys,
one.
and one of you guys didn't have one,
Yes.
and so that's
I was gonna mention this earlier, but it didn't seem like a good time. But Ian talks about all these postcards, and you got some postcards that were really relevant. I got maybe 2 postcards the entire game, and they were both exactly the same. And they were like, "You get points if you touch Seattle." Like that was like my
Mhm.
postcards were not good. Like, and they
So-
did nothing for me.
That segues into my next point about Ticket to Ride as a legacy game. I understand that the vast majority of games have luck in them. Unfortunately, Ticket to Ride has a fair amount in how cards are dealt and how cards line up with each other. And so for that, I think that if you have one person, like Julia's case here, where she only saw 2 postcards over the course of 12 games,
yeah.
that's wild. So I think just by the structure of the game, I think there's some downsides to making it a legacy version. I did like the way that your empire built as you went along. And so I think there are pros and cons. I think for what Ticket to Ride is, they did a very good job of making it a legacy version. I don't know. It's hard to say how I feel about if I would just give it a stamp of approval now that I've played it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that point.
So,
Yeah.
As far as my personal experience, games 1 and 2 were hilarious to me because, again, I felt like I was being hustled. And I so rarely feel that at the game table
Yeah.
that it was a great experience for me. I've had to measure this. I've had to break out how I measure this game because on the one hand, it was an incredible experience because I got to do it with you two along with Anna, which we don't get to do this a lot.
Yeah.
With the 4 of us. So I had to kind of separate that because I'm like, okay, this game could have been anything, and
Right.
I would say it's awesome because I got to spend time with Ian and Julian.
Right.
So there's that. But there were fun aspects of exploring all the new stuff that would open up. But I also felt like I walked away from each game thinking I played that as well as I could have, and I still got the crap beaten out of me. So I don't know what to do with that. And I think part of it, I know that for how I absorb games and how I play games, I will probably never be good at legacy games because I'm someone who needs 2 or 3 plays and then I see it and then I really latch onto it and I can get better at it. But learning constantly a new game every single time, I understand the framework is still there, but it changes the way you think about the game. And I think that just lends to me not doing as well anyways. I don't want to take anything away from what Anna and Ian did as far as their play because, like I said, Ian, it was like watching an artist work. And it was such a joy to watch
Watching a
that.
professional juggler.
Oh man.
That's right.
I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it. I really did. And even when you saw me in the most angry of states, I was still I was really thrilled for you. It really was fun to watch.
Just
So I have
just went out and caught things on fire outside.
Yeah.
did not.
I think
right.
anyone who feels any ounce of competitiveness in their soul can feel the pain of like, yeah, it was kind of funny, but honestly, it felt like salt in a paper cut a little bit of just because we all know just how terrible that
I knew
feels. And
when I
you
watched
dealt with
Jared,
it very well. I could tell you were mad, and I was like, he's holding it together pretty well.
That was one of the most depressing moments in gaming I've ever witnessed in my life.
We all know that that's just the worst.
We were on the way home. I was like, man. I feel
We
bad
were
for
not
Jared.
laughing. We were
You
like,
guys-
we were like,
there was like
Jared,
there
man.
was like a griefing moment of like, I feel really bad for Jared right now. Like, I can't even wrap my brain around how I would feel.
Yeah.
But again, like, it's so interesting because I was so mad, but also so resigned in the moment because I knew it was over.
Yeah.
Like the whole campaign was done for me at that point. But I got over that so much faster than ending each game being like, I did my absolute best
Mm,
and it wasn't good enough.
yeah,
And so
that's
part,
a tough place to be.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that
No,
was really
I
frustrating.
hate being in. Yeah, you. Well, it's like, oh, I did everything I could and I still lost. They just played better. So there's that part. But it's also like, man, I don't even know what I could have done different.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
kind of
and-
a give and take.
It's kind of like I wish in a way I could go back and replay it just to watch and see like, okay, what did Ian draw or what did Anna draw that
Yeah.
they could, or what did even Julia draw that she got?
Oh, thanks
She started
for
drawing.
throwing me in there.
Well, we saw the scores, Julia.
A match replay of every game would be like just
where
to
you
watch
could just,
over.
where you could see
Yeah,
like how the tickets lined up
Yeah.
and how people are playing it differently because of that.
That'd
That would
be
be
pretty-
fascinating.
that would be pretty wild, especially in this legacy version. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be pretty funny.
So I don't know. I feel like I got from a legacy perspective. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 set me up to fail because I
It
think
did.
that's one of my best legacy experiences.
Yeah.
So everything after that's just not going to hit the
Mhm.
way that did.
So if you played another legacy game that's not co-op,
Yeah. So
Okay.
I've played Risk Legacy before.
okay,
And that was like the
That-
pioneer.
that was the first.
so
legacy
it's
game.
hard to measure that versus everything
Sure,
else.
but I hadn't played a non-co-op Werewolf Legacy.
Oh, that's true. And we've also done Werewolf Legacy.
Okay, because I
Um,
I hadn't played another solo like legacy. So it's a little different.
Where you're a competitive one.
Where I'm just
Yeah.
by myself. So
I honestly, and Anna alluded to this, I had no issue with it being competitive, especially coming off a Pandemic Legacy Season 2 game where we were working together, and I feel like we were constantly butting heads because we had different ways of going about it. It was nice to have something where it's like, this is my thing, and I'm just building my thing, and however it shakes out is how it's going to shake out, but
Yeah.
it's still mine. So, all that
Like a
said,
marriage right there.
that's right.
Sometimes you gotta be a team. Sometimes you gotta have your own thing.
Well, and it's interesting because Season 1, like, we were clicking the whole way through. I mean, I truly don't like Season 2, and I think that's a whole different discussion. But
it is a different discussion.
Coming soon, pandemic.
nope.
Season two.
No.
No.
The audience is not ready for that kind of
There you go.
negativity.
Our marriage is not ready for Jared's negativity about that game.
Season 0. That's what it'll.
There you
There
go.
you go. So I've given it a lot of thought, and I really chewed on what to score this game because I want to be fair to the game and recognize my limitations versus the game's limitations. So I think for me, I'm going to give this game a 6.75.
Ow. I was
I-
expecting a 0. No, just.
I had fun with you guys. I don't know. The game, it was fun to go through the experience, but I don't need to play it again. And I thought it was fine as far as a legacy experience.
Yep.
What could have made it better for you? What would have made you be like, this was exceeded my expectations?
If they had some way of distributing the tickets to where at least, so like some of the mini expansions in Ticket to Ride, make sure that everybody gets a 20 scoring point
Yep.
ticket or something of that, something to where I knew that there was some level of balance to the ticket draw. There's still luck involved. Like there's no removing that.
Yep.
But to mitigate some of that would have made me, it would have changed the perspective from, I know I've done everything I can and I just am not getting the cards, to, okay, there's some luck, but we've all are basically on the same playing field here.
Yeah.
So what am I doing wrong?
How many tickets did we get at the beginning of each game?
What, 4
Or-
Yeah.
that you could keep?
Yeah. The more you say it, I think maybe 5 would have been better. It gives you just a little, because most games do have 5. The bigger ones do. But
And if
I
that
mean,
fifth could have been like distributing a high point ticket to
Yeah.
everybody, no matter what level you're at.
sure. Yeah, I
So-
don't know.
And I know that would have added some more fiddliness to
Yep.
setup, but I don't know. I just think it's a game that has a lot of potential luck in it. And you add more to it when you have the events and you have ticket draw and you have the ghost train when you start incorporating that later.
There's more
There's
luck
tunnels.
in this version.
Like when you start compounding on it, you're like, man, this totally depends on whatever flips.
I
And
mean,
Well, even
every aspect of everything that it adds is all luck
well,
based.
even the ghost train bit, like I got a curse that like I can't even remember what it was, but it didn't affect me hardly at all.
Right.
Like I had a curse for the whole rest of the game, and
Yeah,
I
you
didn't even
didn't
think
care.
about it, and it ruined your game completely,
Right.
and you lost a ticket because of it. Like it just like is so random, like how this thing is going to affect you, which I guess for some people might be a positive of like, oh, you just never know, but it is kind of like. It made me really nervous to draw any like
Yeah.
ghost train tickets because it felt so risky. Then it was like it could be nothing, or it could cost me literally the whole game.
Yeah,
Which-
I mean, Ghost Train, Lost Treasure, Shares, Circus Trains, Bridges, even the timetable. I mean, those are all
Yeah.
random.
there are randomness to it.
Then the tickets.
And
Like,
again, like Ticket to Ride has that in a major element of its game, and
Yeah.
that's fine because we get through a regular Ticket to Ride game in like 40 minutes.
Yep.
So if there's randomness to it and I get screwed, whatever, like it's not a big deal.
mm,
But when I'm committing to 12 games and those last 3 games are taking over an hour and a half a piece,
Yep.
and we're all sweating bullets because we're trying to do the best that we can and we know there's no going back, I don't know. I just feel like you'd want to mitigate that as much as you can.
sure.
Yeah.
That's the primary thing for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point. I definitely agree. I don't think I would need to play this again as much as Anna and Julia would play it again. I'm on Jared on the not playing again, but I did really enjoy enjoy it for what it is for sure.
Yep.
Move on to a different legacy game now.
And that is
That's
good
right.
feedback for people and knowing whether or not it would be good for your table or not. Because I would say I'm less bothered by randomness in games as long
Mhm.
as it's like equally applied and there's still. I don't like games that are completely random. I like games where there's some strategy, but games where you have to manage your strategy around some of the randomness might be coming.
Right.
I actually kind of enjoy that.
I mean,
Me
you can
too.
control some of the randomness in this. If you like the Lost Treasure is an example, you draw those treasure map cards. You could, you might get 4 of them, and you're like, oh, well, I need more, and I just drew 2 of the same. Well, then just keep building routes down there. Like, there's a way to mitigate it. It just costs some time.
Yeah,
Right.
or you could keep a couple extra wilds in your hand just
Yeah.
in case your bridge gets blown out at
Right.
the very end of the game. I mean, there's ways to mitigate the risk that might be coming. And I did do that. I mean, like there was an event that we flipped over several times where you could use white as wild. And so
Yeah.
whenever I didn't have a color I could draw, I was like, "Oh, I'll just hold some whites in my hand. We'll see if I end up using them later on." And so there was a way to plan for the randomness, and I enjoy that in gameplay. I don't need everything to be completely non-randomized.
Yeah.
So that's just different play style, and so it's helpful in letting people know if they'd enjoy it or not.
I think if you're into theming over mechanics, this
Mhm.
would be a good choice. But I think if you're really into the mechanics of it all, might be a skip.
For sure.
I would agree with that.
All right. Well, after my tale of woe, do
There
we have
it
any
is.
other final thoughts of comments before we wrap it up?
So 8s, except for Jared, 6.75.
6.7.
But he's not biased by his really bad game.
I think that's fair. Well, going into it, you don't love Ticket to Ride
I enjoy it.
anyway. Well,
Yeah.
it's not like you're like.
Oh no,
wow.
I would never make like a top 5.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Not
So
that
I feel
make
like
those.
He plays it for
6.75
me.
makes
Same
sense.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. Yeah, it has everything that a long kind of experience I think should have, which is the game's changing every time you play and all of that. So I think it does those things well. But I think everybody else's points are on point. I agree with what everybody else said, even with Jared knocking it. No, just kidding.
I know, I'm average.
No. I agree with everything that you said. It didn't affect as much of my outlook of the game, I guess. It just didn't change my opinion as much. But I agree with everything that you're saying about the randomness and all those things. Those are definitely things I do not like.
Right.
But overall, experience-wise, it was a great experience. And I think if you're looking to buy this game, if you're like, oh, Ticket to Ride Legacy, you probably like Ticket to Ride, I would have to assume. Or
Yeah.
you're interested in trying Ticket to Ride. And I think both of those things, I think you would enjoy this game. So that's why I'm going to say that it's a good experience, because if you just hate Ticket to Ride, don't buy this because you don't like Ticket to Ride. Like, it's
This
Ticket
will
to
not
Ride.
change your mind.
Yeah, it's not going
No,
to change
if
your
anything,
mind.
it will reinforce your opinion.
So like, if you're wanting to try this and you're interested, I think you would like it. If you have no desire to play Ticket to Ride ever again, then don't play this game.
So I actually do. I have 2 more points that I just remembered. First of all, Julie and I talked about wanting to play the game again, and several people might be thinking that doesn't make any sense. You can't play legacy games again because you already know all the twists that are coming. So this game actually did build in a mechanic where you could play it again, where the final reveal of where the boss was going to be there was a second choice for if you played it again. So that might be interesting for some people as they're playing through it. Like, hey, you could actually have 2 groups of people that you'd be playing this through with, and not be surprised, and still be surprised by a final twist at the end. You'd still know the rules for each of the different territories that were open, but the only one where you actually really had to know the answer, was where Mama O'Connell
And
was hiding.
there are 3 different options. I looked at them. So
Okay, so you could play it 3
You
times.
could play it 3 times and not know the answer.
Except for the last time when you would know by elimination.
Well, no,
No,
it's still ran.
No,
there's
3
still-
different choices.
There's 3 different choices, but one.
Each choice
It's
has
not-
its own
yeah,
set of
there's not-
clues.
There's unlimited amount of choices that the city could be where the Mama O'Connell is, but there's 3 sets
Mhm.
of cards that help you deduce.
Right. I would be really interested to see. I mean, I'm not interested enough to do it, but I'd be interested to see what a mixed group would be like, where you have some players who have played before and some who haven't. Because, like, I mean, yeah, you've played before, but there's so much going on by the end of the game and the end of the campaign. I don't know how you'd possibly keep up with all that as you played 9 to however long later on, into your life. So it's not like you're going back to watch a movie and you're going to sit there on the couch and be like, oh, watch this. Oh, watch this. Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot to try to hold on to, that there would be some either, oh, yeah, I'm remembering this now, but not like perfecting it.
I think if I knew different about the circus, it would completely change how I'd play that.
that it ran out.
Yes.
Is what you're saying? Yeah.
It ran out in 1 round. I would have not gone for the big one. I would have gone for all the little ones and gotten significantly more points.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
I
'cause
would have gone for the big one because I went for the little ones and I didn't get anything.
Right.
I went for the big one and got it,
Yeah.
and that was key.
Yeah. And I think the game could change depending on what territories you opened when as
That's
well,
true.
because then
Oh,
you've got
totally
different
totally
mechanics,
different game.
different mechanics working together at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like we said, some of the mechanics fade out after a round or 2, and then you keep playing, but the different ones you had going at the same time could really affect the gameplay. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, just because nobody said it yet, because I don't think it's something that's terribly important to us. We kind of like legacy games that change as you go along, and I kind of think it's fun, when you rip up the cards and you're like, I'm never seeing you again, this and that. But we have played legacy games with some people that don't like the fact that after you're done with the legacy game, you can't play the game anymore because you've ruined it.
Right.
And that is also something that Ticket to Ride tries to get around. They have rules and a version of the game where you can keep playing the game board along with some of the mechanics,
Yeah.
even after you're finished with the legacy game. So it just becomes another game of Ticket to Ride, huge game board, which is super fun, way more cities, and some of the mechanics that were in the legacy game, and you can continue to play the game. So I know that's important to some people, so I thought throw that in.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting rule book. Yeah, you have to play with all the tickets that are punched, which is interesting. I think that's nostalgic, I guess. It's like, oh, look, these are all punched, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have everything. It has the stocks. You don't get the money like you do. There's a couple little things. I think you do play with the ghost train or something like that, but yeah, it's not everything. It's mostly just a customized board of the way your game played, because you put the stickers and everything on there, so there's no red. So,
In our case, yeah.
games, if somebody were to play red, they'd be, I don't know. So anyway, yeah, very interesting. But yes, you can play it, and I think that's something that is good that they added. I think that's good. At the end of a legacy game, I'm not really interested in playing it again, but I do understand that feeling for sure of like,
some people.
Yeah, no, I think there's an ability for them to add it to every game, really. I mean, even Pandemic, technically, there's a way to figure it out. So
Sure.
I think it's more just the idea that you have the option versus like the practicality of actually playing it. I think
Right.
it's just cool, like when you discover the little slip in the bottom of the box that you didn't know was there, and it's like, guess what? You can relive this experience
Yep.
anytime you want.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, that's so cool. And then you just never do it again. But
I
That's
will.
the idea
That's
is
right.
cool.
No, you're right.
So, to be fair, though, I will say that I found it after we were about to throw the box away because it was under the insert, and there was nothing anywhere that said, "Hey, look under the insert." Like even on the back of the deck.
Yeah, that's true.
So I always checked under the insert, but I know
I
some.
don't.
Yeah,
I would
see,
never have checked.
Exactly. So it could have easily been thrown away and
Yes,
not
no one would
known.
have known.
Yeah. Some people listening to the podcast have gone through the legacy game and thrown theirs away, and they're like, "What?
Shoot! Wait, you can keep playing?" So yeah, there was something under the insert that you missed. So
Sorry.
I wish maybe at the bottom of that, like the legacy deck, it said like, "Hey, check under the insert" or something. I don't know. Just out of the, I don't know, practicality of it all. But
Yeah. But it did create what Julia just described of that, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
We're never going to do that.
Yeah, he said
Hey, some people might.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yep. No, I do like, there have been multiple games I've played in my life where I have checked under the insert and found something, and that is always a cool moment. So that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah,
because
no, there you go.
somebody put something there.
A
So
little
it keeps
nugget
happening.
for all you listeners out there.
Yep. Put something under the insert, please, for my games.
There you go. A nice little tease. That's all Ian needs in life.
That's
a little
right.
Tease. Well, hey, thank y'all so much for listening. Thank you, Julia, specifically, as the resident non-gamer, for joining us for this epic experience.
You're very welcome.
It has truly been a joy. It really
That's right.
has. So, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Jump in on Anna and Julia's second round of Ticket to Ride Legacy if you're into that.
Girls Club.
That's
There
right.
you go. If you have feedback or want to give us your thoughts on the game, we would love to hear from you. Links to our socials are in the description. If you don't like socials, I absolutely get it. Shoot us an email at thegametablepodcast@gmail.com or find us on Board Game Geek. 5-star reviews, subscribing to your podcast player of choice, following us on socials, maybe that's your thing, and joining the conversation on Discord. All these heroic actions are immensely helpful in growing this podcast. Special thanks to Angie Santiago for our cover art and to Anna Snyder who made the music. Join us next week as we go back on over to the kids' table and take a look at My Little Everdell. In the meantime, may your dice rolls and your card draws be blessed, and your experiences at the table be ones to remember forever.
That's right. And don't lose by negative 56.
Don't score negative 56. Don't do it. It's my score.
Don't try and beat
Jared's going for a record.
that.
It's mine.
Don't try and beat it. You won't have fun. It will not be a fun experience.